All right, so let's begin. Here we are. This is the first episode of the NBA podcast for 2020 season. I am joined by my fellow alumni from Illinois Wesleyan University, Eric Dortch. Eric, do a little quick introduction, yourself, your hooping history. But yeah, if you want to, let's go ahead and start with that.
Yeah, man. I started playing basketball like 5, like most people. Played all the way through high school. In high school I was on a Nike sponsored AAU team. It was actually Jordan because I played with Mike's son Marcus. So, that's really where my love for basketball came because it was also high level. So it's kind of crazy now. Like I look at, what I'm doing professionally is great. But a lot of guys like John Wall, Harrison Barnes, like all played them on the circuit. And so for a person that played, it's like, man, I'm watching TV and I'm like, wow, whew, so it's pretty funny. But yeah, man, then I made my way to Illinois Wesleyan, which was crazy because I had a decent amount of, D1 offers coming out of prep school too. But I mean, I really like to win, man. I don't like losing. So I was like, let's go somewhere 4 years. And so Wesleyan came with the, right package for the family and made myself there. And that's how Quincy and I met. So,
Yep.
And now I just talk hoops all day, every day. So,
Yep. And so basically how this started was I've been like in and out of this top 5 sports thing. And this most recent time, like during this quarantine, I wanted to recommit. And something I was like adamant of is like making sure I like reach out to people and ask for help. And like, if you're on Twitter, like I'm on Twitter, you see people, you see how they tweet, you see their thoughts, and you can get a good idea of like if they know what the fuck they're talking about or if they're just kind of like casuals or just like super Bron fans or super Kobe fans. And I remember like
right.
I would see conversations with you speaking on Kobe and Bron. I'm like, you're being logical. I think you identify as a big Kobe fan, but you're not like,
oh yeah,
you're not just crazy overhill, just like throwing nonsense and trolling nonstop. And that's when I was like, you know what? I think bro might be somebody to reach out to.
Yeah, for sure.
You wrote some blogs for us over the NBA Finals. Were really, really good. And so I'm excited to get into this. It's been a lot going on in the NBA for over the last month since free agency started, even up to this
understatement, bro.
Right, even up to this last week with the John Wall Westbrook trade. This is a Chicago-based podcast, and we gotta show our Bulls some love. So that's what we're gonna start off with. Every episode, we're gonna show love to our Bulls because they don't get love, and I think it's time, especially when you think of the new regime, the new management, that we look at them with a different angle. And so I recently wrote an article, 5 things that need to happen for the Bulls to make the playoffs. I don't know if you read it, Ed, but obviously it's a long shot. I'm just going to go ahead and start off and ask you, like, how do you feel right now with this Bulls team? How do you feel about the drafting of Patrick Williams? And, like, what are your prospects for the season?
Yeah, man. I first and foremost, I think for us, the playoffs are definitely a long shot. Mm-hmm. But I do think, man, we have potential to make it into the playoff play-in. So, I think it's 7 through 10 are going to have a play-in similar to what they did in the bubble. And I think the Bulls should be right there. So, I mean, potentially we could sneak in. What I've been telling a lot of people is that, Bulls fans for the last, since we were kids, since Krause retired, probably like 2000, since Jordan retired, basically, we've been having PSD based on that last regime when Gar and Pax and, those guys, and not to discredit them, but obviously there are just certain moves that are questionable. And so, with this new regime, man, and, you got Chris Everly, you got AK, they're taking over. They're making moves that are putting us in position, right? So I hear a lot of people talk about, re-signing Denzel Valentine or, signing Gary Temple. And I try to offset those like, man, those are 1-year deals, man. That's setting us up for next year when, we have cap flexibility. We have 2 younger players, Archie Ryan Diacono, Taylor Hutchinson that have team options. So it gives us a lot of flexibility, first and foremost there. And then, I think the hiring of Billy Donovan wasn't the popular hire with all the big names on there, but I mean, Billy's great with young players. I mean, you see what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just did. I mean, granted, he had Chris Paul there, but I think that's going to be huge for Kobe White, right? Somebody who's not a traditional point guard and trying to learn that role and is capable of learning that role. And then, looking at Laurie and Wendell, I think it's going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
I think I try to remind people, Laurie 2 years ago was 19-9 as a 20-year-old, 19-9 in the NBA. That's to me like that game could be special, man. So Laurie, I like to see the uptick in shots the way that, similar to how they used Gallo in OKC in Billy's system. Yep. I think he's gonna get a lot of post ups. And Wendell, man, I think, people forget that, Al Horford was with Billy sometimes, was so back then. But you see how Al Horford played. I think Wendell has that prospect to be used in a similar role. So, yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. And then, lastly, man, Patrick Williams, man. I know for a lot of people that is not a popular name, but first and foremost, this isn't a deep draft, so that's the one thing. So for me, taking the person with the most upside and the highest ceiling makes sense, right? At the bare minimum, he's going to be able to defend multiple positions, knock down open shots. And obviously, you see guys like P.J. Tucker getting paid, millions of dollars to be 3-and-D guys. And if you can do that at a high level, you have a place in today's NBA. So that's the thing. And I think, he's very a fluid athlete as well, too. So, who knows what an 18-year-old is going to be, in 5 to 8 years from now. But, I like the opportunity he's going to get, and I like the playing time. And, couple that with the explosive scorer like Zach LaVine, could be special, could surprise people. So.
Yeah, bro, you bring up a lot of, points, even from the beginning with the whole PTSD thing. It's like I'm at work, I'm having a conversation with Bulls fans, and they're just like, they don't have patience, and they're like, they don't understand the position that they're in, and they're like so quick to just I feel like there's probably 25% of Bulls fans don't even know we have a new management team. So they're just thinking we're just gonna be doing the same things, and we talk about Patrick Williams. There's so much people. First of all, a lot of people don't watch college basketball, and I kind of fall into that category. I kind of pick it up right before conference tournaments when I usually start to dial in and pay attention. Florida State was a team that was deep. I'm pretty sure they were the best record in the ACC. They didn't have a guy that was just scoring 20, 30 points a game. They didn't have a guy that was like him. It was very balanced.
And, dude, that's a great point because to your point, their highest score scored 12 points a game.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't know that.
Patrick was 8 or 9. You know what I'm saying?
He was 9 points a game. He's 9 to 6 off of, I think it was 22 minutes a game. And you do per 40, man, you talking about looking at 18 and 9.
Right.
So,
on top of the what I loved was I'm a big free throw shooting guy, and he was around 83, 84%. I feel that's always a good measure of your 3-point shooting forecast. If you're making free throws at a good rate, they usually kind of coincide with being a good shooter at least. And like you said, everything I've seen from P. Will up to this point, I'm already giving him a nickname. Everything up to this point, I'm not a guy that gives too much into the open gym workouts. But it was hard. I saw some clips. Yeah, he was cooking a little bit. Hey, I'm like, yo, you're looking good, bro. I know it. Look, again, it's open gym, it's workouts. It's guys that play at our level that look great in open gyms. You feel me? So it's it's not even but still, bro,
he looked nice, man. There was some players on the court. I saw Dinwiddie out there, Spencer Dinwiddie with the Nets.
Playing with other pros, right?
Yeah, so he looks smooth. He's a very fluid athlete, man. I like his long-term projections of what he could potentially be in this league, and not to overhype him, but I think at his peak, I think he's a guy who can guard 1 through 4, possibly 5 if they go small ball. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to hit open threes, and I think the way he's fluid, he's going to be able to get and attack the basket. So, I just tell people, a perfect example, everyone sees Jimmy Butler now. People forget about the Jimmy Butler that was coming out of Marquette, right? 30th pick, really didn't play that much. You got to give players time, man. And Jimmy was even older at that point too, right? But people are going to flourish, opportunities, it's really going to come down to work ethic. So, man, I'm excited, man. P. Will, man, he might do some things, man. He's rocking a 9 like Mike in the USA for the Olympics. So I'm excited, man. We got some opportunities here.
And then just to kind of touch back on a few things, I think as far as Billy Donovan goes, this last stint, OKC was probably his most impressive coaching stint with a roster that many people weren't even projecting to make the playoffs. Everybody thought it was just like Chris Paul, 1 year. He did leave. It was just like a throwaway season, and it was nothing but. And so, Donovan has had the pleasure of coaching guys like Westbrook and pretty sure with KD, Paul George. And so it's sometimes when you have those superstars, coach doesn't get as much credit. But this past year when it was Chris Paul at 35 years old, a bunch of young guys, outside like Gallinari and guys like that. But for him to put that team, fifth seed in the West, I believe.
Fifth seed, yeah.
Puts the Rockets to 7 games. Probably could have won the series. It's just like he's a coach, and just like Williams wasn't the pretty draft pick, Billy Donovan wasn't the pretty draft pick, but I like it. At the end of the day, it's about winning games. So So yeah, bro, I'm excited, and then the last thing I want to kind of touch on for the Bulls is how Kobe White was playing post All-Star game. I think he was averaging like 25 points per game, had 3 straight games of 30-plus points. Like, he was hooping, right? He was
hooping.
So
yeah,
I see pieces, I see flashes. If we can get 19 and 9 Laurie back, if Levine can stay steady, if Kobe can play at that level, we got a young, exciting team for the future, right? Because obviously it's not enough now, but there's reason to be hopeful if you've been paying attention. So that's all I really have to say.
And I think, man, I think the last thing, just on Kobe, man, because obviously people had had their feelings when he was drafted, and I'm gonna be honest, I was one of them. I will say the person that I went to draft, which was Tyler Hero, has been playing well. So I mean, it looks good on my end. But I told people, it's not a bad thing. It's just that I knew they were going to draft Kobe and try to make him a point guard, which that's not really his game, scoring guard. But I think Billy Donovan's going to let Kobe be Kobe, right? And we're going to be a point guard by committee. And so, I tell people, the biggest thing about Kobe White, and I am, I coach basketball, and I used to coach high-level AAU on the Nike circuit. And so I follow all the way from high school all the way up through college. And so one of the biggest things with Kobe White is I tell people, to average, 13, 14 points a game in their first 15 games in the season. And that's basically all non-conference games. And you get into conference in the ACC playing at North Carolina, you're going to get everyone's best shot, and you go up 5 points, and now you're averaging 19 a game in the ACC. Right. When everybody's game planning and they know your tendencies, that's impressive, man. So I think he's got a chance to be special, man. I think it's going to be exciting. I think prospects for Kobe, I think we're going to get somewhere around, 17 and 19 points a game, probably, 3 to 4 rebounds and, 4 or 5, to 6 assists. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays out, man. But there's a lot to be excited about Chicago right now.
A big part of me wants to, believe they're a playoff team this year. That's how I am. I'm usually like an overly optimistic. Like even the way I've been with the Bears through the last 4 years, I'm just always overly optimistic to almost a fault, but it is what it is. It is what it is.
That's Chicago sports, man.
Yeah, man, you gotta lock in, man. You gotta believe. So, I mean, you got anything else on the Bulls?
Nah, man. I think we covered it. I think last thing, just sit back, sit tight, and watch how things unfold. So be optimistic.
And our boy Otto Porter, he needs to be a little bit more careful during this pandemic.
Yeah. To each his own, but that boy is something else. I invite you to hop on Twitter if you haven't seen that. It's quite the sight.
It is the sight. It is. Okay, and so our little Bulls Corner has concluded. Good vibes on that end. So now we're going to move into what is arguably the second most exciting part of the NBA season outside of the playoffs, and that is the free agency period. And man, it was a lot. A lot of splash moves happened from the Montrez signing to Chris Paul to the Suns to this trade that just happened with Westbrook and Wall, and then the draft as well, which was an interesting year. And I kind of want to start with the draft first because I have I'm a type of guy amongst every sport. So basketball, football, it's been proven for decades that this draft shit is not an exact science. Every
Yeah,
single
not
year,
at all.
every single year, there's players that get taken too early, get passed up on, and we see them on our TV screen like balling. The most recent is probably Tyler Hero. His performance in the playoffs,
Yeah.
top 5 guy, right? But even if you look back to guys, we talked about Jimmy Butler, Kawhi went late. I mean, like Steph Curry should have been the number 1 pick. Like it's just year by year by year by year, there's guys that go later that it pan out to be better, and it comes from situations, organizations they go into, things you can't really scout about players. And with the COVID season that just happened in the NCAA, where conference tournament March Madness didn't happen or didn't get completed, it was so hard for me to be like either critical or positive of any draft pick this year, because there was so much unknown, and there's so much stock that goes up or down in those tournaments that didn't happen. So it's just so hard for me to really like objectively feel a way. But I'm gonna ask you, from this draft, outside the great Patrick Williams pick, was there any was there something that you thought was a really good move, or the opposite, a pick that you didn't like for a particular team?
Yeah, I will. One of the moves that I really liked a ton, to be honest, man. I really like what the Kings did drafting Tyrese Halliburton. Um, you know, I think Tyrese has a bit of a funky shot. I mean, he shot 41 or 42% and almost 200 attempts in 2 years in college. One thing I do say that was a little concerning is Lonzo Ball, Zoe did the same thing. So it's a different. When you get your shot off in the NBA, man, it's a lot different. But pairing him with De'Aaron Fox, that's a very explosive backcourt, and that's a great defensive backcourt. And I think Tyrese was a top 10 talent, so I'm not really sure how he slid that much. But yeah, I like the move, man. I like it, and I think it's something that the Kings can be excited about. And moving forward, especially now that you have somebody else that when De'Aaron goes out, Tyrese can slide to the 1, which is his natural position, and run the point when Buddy Hield comes in.
Right.
And then another move, man, that I was really a big fan of, and I think it's not gonna be one of those moves where a lot of people realize them, but I really liked what Sam Presti did in this draft. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people were like, he's stockpiling draft picks and he's getting all these assets. What is he going to do with them? And hey man, look, if anyone knows, college basketball, and I invite you to start watching, the next year's draft class is loaded. There are legitimately 15 players that can come in the NBA and make an impact and have all those assets to basically, use those to get a top 5 pick if you don't land outside of there. In addition, yours, like, that is a huge opportunity that Sam Presti opened. And, he's got, now is given, Shea the opportunity to really grow into his own. Now he's going to run the team. All these, all the younger guys, Lou Dort, who was a guy who really came on the playoffs and started to get a name. And, from Arizona State, he
Martin
was playing that
Destroyer.
way. Now he's got that. Yeah, right. So, I mean, it's a big opportunity, man. So I really like what OKC's doing. I'm always the type of person that's like, if you're not first, you last in sports. You don't never want to be in that limbo. You either want to have a clear path, or what can you do in a couple moves to get you a championship aspiration. So yeah, man, the Kings and OKC, I really, really like what they did this draft for sure.
A Cade Cunningham SGA backcourt.
Yeah, that's nice. That's
Big guard.
nice.
That'd be tough.
Big guards,
Tough.
big guards,
Tough.
man. Big guards.
Presti, obviously. I mean, if there's one GM, it's him, probably in the NBA. He's been getting it right for quite some time now. So
Yeah.
So even though I said what I said initially about the draft, and this is kind of like low hanging fruit. I mean, unfortunately, the Warriors lost Clay, but I think James Wiseman, without a doubt, was kind of like that center for the Warriors. Like, if there was a center to be created in the lab for Golden State, it's him. Just because like just that raw like athletic ability, the lob catching, and if he were to be in a full throttle Golden State offense with a healthy Clay, it would have been poetry in motion. He probably would have had like 6 dunks a game, catching lobs, rim protecting. He has the ability to guard out on the perimeter, and it just would have been a perfect fit. So obviously, like it just made the most sense. But sometimes the picks that make the most sense are the ones that teams don't make. But the Warriors really did. So I do think that was a good play as well. Now a pick that happened, what was the first pick of the second round, was from Tyrell Terry to the Mavs. And reason why I like this pick is because Steph Curry just left Dallas, and the way the Mavericks work is, with that second unit, they like guys that can like really light it up, especially from outside. And so I think he's the type of guy that's going to have like an immediate impact. Super skilled guy, was lining up at Stanford. And so like they have like a lot of depth as far as ball handler goes. And you see like how important that is in teams, especially when you make deep playoff runs. You need secondary ball handlers and playmakers. You need guys off the bench that can make things happen. And I'm going to get into the Mavericks a little bit more later because I really like what they did in the offseason in general. But now they got guys, Jalen Brunson, who's going to be healthy again. Pretty sure Trey Burke re-signed. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So Trey Burke had a really good – so, like, they're very deep with ball handlers that could make things happen, especially when you think about some of the workload and usage rate Luka's going to get. To have people that can kind of release some pressure off him would be very, very important. So I really like that because I was a little worried when Steph left, but yeah, the Mavs get it too. They're one of those organizations that get it too, clearly.
Yeah. That was a good pick. That was a good call on you. Yeah, Ty Terry is a guy who slipped and worked his way up the draft boards with the extended time in between, the season ending. And so, yeah, I think he's going to be good, man. Yeah, one of my good friends actually represents him. So, my buddy Dan Poneman at Beyond Sports. So, yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, I'm a big fan with my guy representing him. So, we'll see what happens, man. But the Mavs, they got a chance, man. A lot of TV time this year, too. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ooh, that Christmas day. Oh, that Christmas day. Wait. I'm parked in front of the TV all day. All day.
Yeah, that's a must, man. That's a must.
Especially like at so it's like Lakers and Mavs. That's the biggest one probably. But the Clippers and Nuggets, and Nuggets is really the one where it's like it's gonna be a little.
A little animosity to that. Yeah, for sure.
The boys took that thing. Took that thing. All right, so oh my bad. Go ahead.
No, you're good, man. Just excited, bro.
Moving off of the draft and into like free agency and what's been happening, what kind of stood out to you as like, I guess the move that should be kind of like the biggest thing? Like if 2020 NBA free agency, what is the move for you? Like what is the thing that like is the most impactful for this upcoming year?
I mean, the biggest move to me was that the Lakers made moves and was able to resign Anthony Davis for 5 years, right? Which I thought, AD being younger, I thought he was going to take a 3-year deal, and with the third year being a player option, so he could hit free agency again at 30. But I mean, they locked him up for 5 years, so now the fourth, he's got a player option after his 4th year, so that's big. So you think about signing Anthony Davis, re-signing him, just happened this week. You get Montrezl Harrell, who's 6th man of the year, average, 18 and 7, I believe it was. Then you trade for the runner-up and Dennis Smith, who is a starting point guard in the NBA. Not get it confused. He came off the bench, but that is a starting point guard. He just had Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul in front of him. So that's a starting point guard. And then you get Marc Gasol, and then you re-sign KCP and Markieff Morris, who are both huge assets and contributors during this year's playoffs, right? And so the Lakers, to me, have clearly won free agency. I think a couple teams made some moves that I don't really think people realize how important they are. I think about the Nets. You got Kyrie Irving, you got KD. Those guys are there. Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert. You saw what Karis did when KD and Spencer and Kyrie were all not in the bubble,
Mm-hmm.
right? But re-signing Joe Harris was huge. Joe Harris is a guy who plays phenomenal defense,
Mm-hmm.
and he shoots around 42 to 43% from three. That is huge with spacing. And then you make a trade, which I call a championship trade. You trade for a guy like Landry Shamet, who's also a great 3-and-D guy who also put the ball on the ground. So you made the Nets, man. It's not something that's going to blow you away, but big time moves. And then the last move that I really like, obviously CP3 in Phoenix, huge. People talk about that. But man, I'm a big fan of what the Hawks did this offseason, man. I'm a huge fan of what the Hawks did. Re-signing Gallinari, so not re-signing him, but signing Gallinari big, especially when he already came out and said that he would take a pay cut to play for a championship team. So convincing him to come to Atlanta was big. And then the way they got, Bogdanovich from the Kings, right? And so they overpaid a little bit. They put a trade kicker in there. Their GM made the moves that if you're going to get a restricted free agent, that's the way you get them.
Right.
And so I like that pairing with Trae Young, man. Trae Young had a lot of people comparing him to Luka that first season, a lot of noise. But Trae Young is coming off a phenomenal season on right. I mean, he averaged 29, and I believe he was in the top 5 in assists in the league. So I mean, you're talking about that guy, 29, 8, 21 years old. Now you give him the pieces. They already traded for Capella last season. They got John Collins, and then they signed a veteran like Rondo. I mean, it's going to be – I don't know what the Hawks are going to do. I think they're a playoff team. I think it can be I think it's going to be pretty scary down there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think, maybe some of the free agents, they saw the verses with Gucci and Jeezy got excited, so they need to come down. I don't know. But I think, it's a lot of prospects down in Atlanta right now, so the A is going to be bumping.
Yeah, so the Hawks are a team that when I was like doing my Will of Bulls make the playoff projections like weeks ago, when they would make those moves, I was like, well, that's it right there. That's one that's gonna make it even more difficult. They got our boy Chris Dunn too.
They did get done. That's a big pickup too.
Yeah. So I think what helped them a lot is that they kind of fortified their backcourt from a like defensive standpoint. Like Rondo and Dunn are both guys that can defend really well, and just Rondo's presence in general on any team is calming, and like he's one of those vets that just like gets it. Like if there's guys in the NBA you want to be around your young guys, Rondo's like the top of the list because he just gets it. He's one of those basketball savants and just knows the game in and out. And then you said Bogdan, and I'm having a brain fart right now. Cam Reddish, yes, my bad. So Cam, that's another really talented guard that I think bringing on guys like Bogdan and bringing on guys like Rondo, Gallinari, it can kind of release some of the pressure on him, so he can really like dial in to just freely. You feel me? Because I feel like with the Hawks last year, there was so much of a who's that number 2 guy who's going to help support Trae Young, and John Collins would miss like virtually the whole season with the whole PED scandal, whatever. So
right.
I think that could relieve some pressure off him, and he's the type of the talent is there. Like on that team, he like Zion was low key saying that he was a dude that might really pop off. So that Hawks team is really going to be a fun team to watch in the East.
Yeah, definitely.
And so when you talk about the Lakers, my first thought was obviously like they killed it, they crushed it. And then somebody had a conversation with me about the Rondo versus Schroeder and how that would look regular season versus how it looked in the playoffs. I know Rondo hates being, called just like a playoff player, but at the end of the day, like the stats kind of speak for themselves. Schroeder's younger. Schroeder's probably going to be available more. So like watching how Rondo played in the playoffs, and then I guess in the same sense, Schroeder's production kind of dropped off in his long playoff series. Is that something you feel like is going to be like a downgrade when it gets to those moments, or do you think like since that's not when you look at the Lakers, that's not in the top 2 of like players that really matter? Is it that less of a thing that actually matters, so where it doesn't really make that much of a difference as far as winning goes? So
Yeah, man. Honestly, that's a phenomenal question because that's some things that I thought about. I think, having Rondo and LeBron on the court together. I mean, you talk about 2 of the guys who have the highest and most talented basketball IQs in NBA history, like bar none, and 2 of the best passers in NBA history, and they made plays. And so I think it's going to be a little different. I think this is going to be something where Schroeder's going to have to, he's more of a scoring guard. He gets assists. I think as for his career, he's around, 6 or 7 a game. But he did well when Atlanta moved Jeff Teague and they signed him to that 4-year deal. Like, that was a move to say, like, we're giving this young guy the keys. And so Schroeder is definitely more than capable. It's just going to be a little different. He's not obviously going to have the, impact in terms from the, mental standpoint that, Rondo would have and, collecting guys, getting people together from that standpoint. It's going to take a bit. It's going to be different pieces. But I think it's going to be by committee, man. The Lakers have a lot of pieces. And not only do they have a lot of pieces, they have a lot of pieces who want to prove themselves, right? And so I think Schroeder, this is a big year for him. Also, I love guys when they're coming up in contract years because when it's a contract year, it's best believe me. Mm-hmm. People are hooping for that paper. Like, so they know, man, like, if I get, like, I mean, that's why people bet on themselves, man. For Eventful, he called all out, man. So I think y'all gonna see the Schroeder that we saw in Atlanta, and I think you're gonna see the OKC Schroeder just take that next step, right. Especially with the Chris Paul experience that he picked up this season.
And I imagine he'll be starting. I don't see, I don't see wouldn't be with the current Lakers roster. But yeah, and then I looked into his. I think he shoots like around 37, 38 from 3, but like 40 on catch and shoot, and that's going to be a lot of his threes now since he won't be on the ball as much as catch and shoot. So if you can shoot around 40, I really, that's really great for playing with Bron and AD. And we didn't mention Wes Matthews, who I personally think is an upgrade from Danny Green. I know you are anti-Danny Green.
That is a huge pickup. I totally forgot about Wes. Yeah, that's a huge pickup. Shout out to Danny, man. He's got 3 championships. But, without saying anything, I think it's just a big pickup, man. I think Wes Matthews is, you gotta have somebody who can knock down shots. And if you're not knocking down shots, then your job as a 3-and-D guy and you're not doing that well, then, it's time to
there's no 3 and no D. There's no 3 and no D. What are you? No, I respect. I like Danny Green. He's a true pro. I listen to his podcast.
He is, for sure. He's a true pro for sure.
Respect. And so now moving on to the most recent kind of splash in the NBA was the Wall, the Russell Westbrook trade, and I believe, correct me, the Wizards got who got the first round draft pick?
That was the Rockets did. So they traded Wall.
Okay.
And a first for them. Yeah.
Okay. Who won? That's just my question. Who do you think won?
Man, honestly, I hate doing this to cop out. Honestly, my opinion, I think both those players won. Their games are very similar. And so, but I think both players won because obviously, John Wall and Brad Beal, love each other, but rumblings, there's always just animosity on whose team is going to be. The media try to tear them apart. I think they're boys. Just sometimes it's time to change the scenery. And the same with Westbrook and Harden, And so for me personally, I think this is like one of the few trades that I've seen that if both players play at their absolute height, it's going to work out for both teams. And I really don't say that a lot because usually I'm like, man, but I mean, in terms of contract value, in terms of age, like, because I honestly was like, I told people at the start of it, I think I may have even told this, I was like, I don't really see who else either of them can be traded for other than each other. Like, in terms of contract. Like, I mean, if you do that, you're going to sacrifice so much cap space, and you may not get anything in return. So, John Wall at his height playing next to James Harden. Now James Harden goes back to being a 2. And now he's going to be playing in a bit of a different offense than D'Antoni's. Like, that's going to be big, man. And John and Harden are friends. And then you give, You give Russ playing with Brad Bill, who's coming off averaging 35 and 6,
Right.
and now you put him back with Scotty Brooks, who he won insane amount of games with. Like, to me, man, that's it's a good opportunity for both. But if I had to pick, if I had to pick a winner, I would say for right now, it is going to be the Wizards because there's still that looming pressure that James Harden could continue to demand himself out of Houston.
Right.
And I don't know if getting John Wall there gets them, to the point where he wants to stay because basically every team in the West got better and, still a lot of question marks down in Houston. So,
and that's I guess to kind of add on to Washington, they drafted Denny Abdia, who a lot of people thought the Bulls would take, who's like an interesting prospect because he has playmaking ability. And again, it's one of those situations where guys that aren't the guy, so it's gonna be Beal, Westbrook, and then maybe Denny. Without that, that extreme amount of pressure for him to perform night in and night out, it could be very beneficial for him to kind of just go out there and hoop, even at his young age. And it's gonna be interesting to see how that works out. And a little side note with the Houston team, they did sign Boogie, so I got a little BB reunion, and so it's interesting because I guess with Boogie and John Wall, we haven't seen Wall play the last 2 seasons, and his most recent injury was a ruptured Achilles, and that's why when I kind of broke it down, because I love Russ as a competitor, and as an energy and what he does, I respect, because there's not a lot of guys who play the game of basketball like that night in and night out. Like, it just doesn't happen. People don't have those motors. I'll always respect him for that. But like many people who watch him closely, there's a decision making aspect of him that we just don't like, and I think that's when John Wall has the edge. When I talk about this Achilles injury, you think about a player like Kevin Durant, whose game is silky smooth, a lot of post ups, turnarounds, pull ups, just being big and tall. So I'm just gonna shoot over you. And then John Wall is a player who's stop and go, quickness, burst. That's like a big base of who he is as a player. I get a little worried about what John Wall we will see. He was improving as a three-point shooter, but he's still not like a reliable guy. And so that's like a big question mark for John Wall. Like, how is he going to look on the court? I mean, at this point, he's like 32 years old. He's a pro, so he gets it. Like, the man's played enough NBA ball to figure out a way to still hoop. But it's gonna be very interesting. And then you made an interesting point about play style of this Houston team. It's not gonna look the same. Another time, I talked to friends about Rockets, like how's it gonna work? Harden just gonna dribble the shot clock down? I'm like, that era is most likely gonna be over in Houston. They're probably gonna slightly move back towards a more traditional style. You're right. It's going to be one of the situations where you're right. I think both teams, in a sense, got the most that they possibly could have got out of it. So,
yeah, for sure.
Definitely, it was interesting. It was definitely something I didn't expect, but it's gonna be fun to especially this Wizard team. Like, the East in general right now is probably the strongest it's been in a while. From top to bottom. Top to bottom. Yeah.
I mean, because even in the East, man, like, to your point, like, there's teams like the Wizards, the Hawks, the Pacers, who are not going to really – I mean, the Wizards now, because they have players, and the Hawks, make some moves. But, the Pacers, man, that's a solid team that's got a lot of hitters too. And it's like, this very well could be a year on both sides of both conferences where you see teams with winning records, possibly not make the playoffs. Right. So, and that hasn't happened in quite some time in both conferences. So.
And so, just kind of moving into our last little segment here, the way too early predictions, as we like to do.
You need them.
Yeah, and so we're just gonna run over who we got coming out of East Conference, and then our prediction for NBA MVP this year. So you want to start off with your East-West, and then eventually Finals champs, and I'll follow you up.
Yeah. So coming out of the West, man, I think the Lake Show are coming out. Um, I mean, I said that as soon as they like signed Trez and traded for Gallo and got Mark and West, and this is before AD even resigned. I was like, they're gonna run it back. So I just don't see any team top to bottom because now at this point they took the team that they won with, they retained people, and they got deeper, and they cleared up big gaps that they had. And so I just think that's hard to beat. I think coming out of the East, man, and anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge KD fan. But and you know, while that's my guy, um, and it has some bias to do with it. It's not totally biased. I just like what they're doing out there with the Nets, man. I think, Kyrie Irving paired with a John Wall and a Mike D'Antoni. I think you probably gonna see the best Kyrie Irving we've seen.
Right.
I think Kevin Durant. I think he's playing a little coy right now where he's at, but I think KD, based on everything that I've read and heard, that KD looks like KD.
Mm.
And then, they got, again, Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, uh, DeAndre Jordan,
Josh
uh,
Allen. Yeah.
Jared Allen.
Jared
Yeah,
Allen.
you got Jared Allen. Yeah, right. um, yeah, man. So they have pieces, man. That for me, I think that's going to be tough, and it's going to be really deep. Um, and I don't really know how. I think a lot of teams in the East, that was their best shot.
Yeah.
Because I think Kevin Durant at his best, Kyrie Irving his best. You got Mike D'Antoni's offense. Steve Nash calling it, and you got Jack Vaughn. Running things. I think that's tough. So I think we're gonna see a Lakers and Nets matchup. I finally think we're gonna see another rematch of Katie and Brian that we've been looking forward to see. So yeah, man, that's where I think we're gonna be at.
I'll be a box office finals. Box office. Yeah, I mean, so in Western Conference, I'm agreeing with the Lakers. So what stuck with me the most when watching the Lakers this past playoffs is when LeBron or when AD moved to the 5 and LeBron played to the 4, like the versatility and skill set from your bigs is like that's unlike any team. No team in the NBA can match that. I'd argue I can't think of a team in general that has that type of like versatility when it's like you got rebounding, you got rim defending, you got offensive skill. It's every base is covered. So like that alone, plus everything they added, it's kind of like they're healthy, they're in, they do what they're supposed to do, they're in. Especially like AD's 27, right? He's
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
28, 29, 30. This is your time. Like this is your time to beat him. You feel me? So like
yeah.
it's definitely Lakers in the West. In the East, um, I mean, I guess like if I'm betting money, I'm agreeing with you, but just to kind of mix it up, the thing about the Nets, the only thing I can see becoming an issue is those personalities that are in that locker room, and that's why I believe strongly that the job of Steve Nash is going to be managing egos, communication. That's the biggest thing with this team. Same thing with Phil in the '90s, even with the Bulls teams, or even with the Lakers and Shaq and Kobe. Sometimes, man, coaching is not that complex when you have players of that caliber. You don't want to be disrespectful by saying you just have to roll a ball out, but essentially, like, there's lineup adjustment to making stuff, but you need to manage these guys' ego, especially Kyrie and KD's history. They're probably two of the most weird and eccentric superstars probably in this era when it comes to like how they handle player to player relations, their social media presence, which is weird dudes, right? By the end of the day, like when they're on that hardwood, it's some of the most beautiful, high skilled basketball you've ever seen. So so if Nash can kind of manage that team from a personality, ego standpoint, then yes, it's the Nets winning the East. However, if there's a team that kind of like my sneaky pick, it will be the Heat, man. And my reasoning is they literally they virtually check every box as far as like what a team needs, and they come off as that team with that confidence and that chemistry to just like when it comes to the nitty gritty. You saw what Jimmy did by himself, right? Bring back Goran to that equation. You got Tyler Hero, who's probably going to get better. Duncan's still doing the things he's doing, and they had that experience. They kind of went through that bubble and gained that that playoff badge. So I think most people are kind of like thinking that's like a 1-year thing, but like I don't. Who wants to see the Heat in a playoff series?
Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a good point.
So it's one of those things like they've proven from a chemistry standpoint that they got the perfect mix of guys, and so there's a situation where the Nets are failing in that aspect. On top of the fact I didn't mention that Kyrie and KD are notoriously injury prone. That might be something that shows itself in the playoffs throughout the season. You could see a rematch in the finals, and I'll be okay with that, especially if you get a healthy Heat team to play the Lakers this time around. So yeah, I agree with you, but I had to throw in a little Heat angle.
I like that pick, man. I like that Heat team a lot too. It's gonna be interesting. I know Adam Silver and Co are trying to figure out how fans are gonna be at the game, and I think it's a tweet that I saw that someone was talking about T.J. Warren, and it was like T.J. Warren was going on a crazy stint where he was averaging like 45 a game in the bubble.
Yep.
And someone tweeted was like, but can he do it with women at the game, right? And as funny as that sounds, right? Like jokes aside, like playing with fans in the arena versus no fans, and you're having to travel, that's vastly different. And I like that Heat team, but Dame Miller said the best on Fat Joe's podcast. He was like, he thought the bubble was easy. You come back from playing the game, you immediately have your dinner made, you have ice, you don't have to do anything back in the room, everything's there. Versus I'm hopping on the plane. If you're playing in Toronto, now you like coming on a plane, you got to go through customs. It's a lot more it's different aspects, man, with travel. So right. I just think I'm interested to see what that Heat team's gonna do. I'm not going to discount it because I think they're a tough team, but I think it's a different ball game. When the things try to go back to a little bit normal. So we're gonna see, man. I like that pick though. I like that pick.
And so last thing we're going to discuss or predict is who we think is going to bring home the NBA MVP award. I guess I'll start off with this one. My top two this season is going to come down between, in my opinion, it's going to come down between Luka and Steph Curry. And I say that because some of the like, so we talk about the Lakers, we talk about the Nets. The issue with those teams is that when you have two like bona fide superstars, it's tough to really give somebody the nod. And if Curry finds a way to get this Golden State team into the playoffs, even at like maybe like a 6 or 5 seed, without his splash brother, it's gonna be hard to deny it. It's gonna be hard to deny it because it's gonna be clearly he's gonna be that dude. He's gonna be the motor pushing this team going in. So I think that's something that if the Warriors get to that 6-5 seed, I can see it being Steph. But a part of me thinks the Mavericks are going to have the best regular season record in the West this year. I think they're kind of poised to be that team that kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like there's always that team that regular season comes out and kills it. And they have that offensive firepower. They have a superstar that's still young and blooming and they make good moves. Josh Richardson was somebody I wanted to bring up earlier, which is a great move that kind of fortifies them. Another 3-and-D guy that can really like clamp down and kind of create a little bit too for himself. So I think Dallas has a chance. A lot of this kind of record based how they end up finishing the standings, but if I had a choice between those two guys, I think Luka's the most likely one. It just seems like the stars are kind of aligning for him to be that dude. And how he played in that Clippers series without Kristaps, it's like, man, he's ready, clearly.
On a bum ankle, too, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah.
To step back to glory.
Yep,
yeah, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, go ahead. Who do you have?
Yeah, man. So you actually took my pick. Man, anybody who knows me, man, I got three sons in the NBA, man. You know, I got Giannis, I got KD, and I got Jason Tatum. Those are my kids. And I adopted Tyler Hero. So we adopted him. So I got three sons in the NBA. But I have players that I really like. And anyone who knows me, Steph Curry, to me, is the greatest point guard of all time. I will go to bat for him all day. And I think a lot of people are going to be somewhat surprised because they forgot who Steph Curry is. And I just need to put it in context for people that there was a point in time where Steph Curry had people wondering if LeBron James was still the best person in basketball. And that is a hard feat to do. And so I never went that far, but I'm telling people, I'm like, he is pushing Bron to the brink to say this. Yeah. Right. And so I think people think because, Steph, quote unquote, is, like the family man. He's kind of corny. People have their comments. I'm like, yeah, well, that corny guy you laughing at will come up and pull from 30 and put 40 on your head every night. Yep. And so I think Steph has a lot to prove. I think, he's obviously saw the bubble. And I think if you heard him talk about it, he missed being out there competing. And I think it's for him, it's a reminder that just because I was out, just because I was injured, like, don't think it's sweet. I'm 31 years old. Like, and I can come back and show you exactly who I am. Yeah. So I think that's the Steph Curry we're going to see. And then my dark horse pick for MVP is I think Dame Lillard can go on a run to make MVP. We didn't talk about this. I somehow missed it, but the Blazers made some great offseason moves, man. And signing Rob Covington, Rocco was huge. And so if that team, if Dame can continue to do what Dame's been doing and the way that he's been playing, and that Blazers team somehow sneaks into the top 4 in the West, I mean, he's got a compelling argument, man. It's going to be obviously a dark horse pick. There's some times he even missed, the All-Star games just because based on fan voting and all of that, what have you. But I think Dame has a very, very great chance, at doing this. So, Steph is my lock basically, but I wouldn't be surprised to Dame, come up the rear and get that MVP trophy this season.
Man, I just remember like experiencing the NBA last year and what kind of the consistent theme was like, this is NBA. I love NBA, so it's always great for me. But 2021 season was always like, okay, like, this is the year, right?
Yeah.
He gets back, what I'm saying? This is the year when we really going to see, like, what's cracking. That top 5 going to look a lot of guys have the ability to make or break their cases. And then even, like, thinking about the Clippers who have their different sets of motivation. And it's going to be a hell of a season, man. And so I'm really looking forward to doing this. Keep doing these pods. Yeah, bro. I'm just excited, man. I'm just excited.
Yeah, man. To your point, man, it's gonna be a great season, man. I think it's so much to look at. It's gonna be so many different storylines, man. And for the fan that's a casual fan, my biggest thing is, dude, when games are on the NBA, you have to get on Twitter. You need to make one if you don't have one. Because NBA Twitter, I can tell you right now, is probably one of the funniest,
the best
pieces of information you can digest. It is utterly hilarious. The jokes continue to fly. The NBA has basically become a year round.
Oh yeah,
because of the way that social media is changing. So, man, get in tune with it. It's going to be a great season, man. You need follows, let me know. Let us know because it's a lot of jokes, man. It's a lot of jokes and it's a lot of stuff that can really make you turn you from a casual fan to really enjoying the NBA. So,
all right, man. That's all I got. I really appreciate this. This was great.
Definitely, bro. This is great, man. Honestly, I'm looking forward to it, and looking forward to this continuing on.
And we're gonna figure out some type of schedule moving forward because I do the Bears thing still, but that should be over soon to say the least. But yeah, we'll get a schedule going and get to writing again, and I'm looking forward to it. So Eric, I call you Ed because of the Twitter, but I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's all, man. It's gonna be exciting, bro. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Pieces that are gonna drop this pod, and so it's gonna be good, man. I think it's a lot of people are looking forward to it. So
yep. All right, man. I
All right,
appreciate
bro. Of
you.
course, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, man.
Yep,
You
you
go
too.
practice with these kids now.
Yeah, get them
All
right.
right, bro.
Get them right.
Yeah, I'm trying to, bro. All right,
All right,
man.
man.